Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury 3 is off. Knuckleheads, welcome to the Fighters Rep. We give you free fights, interviews in the fight game, and fight commentary from the mind of a promoter/lawyer. I've been covering this a little bit more than I cover typical topics because I think the heavyweight division remains the glamour division, not only in boxing, but probably in all combat sports. Everybody loves the heavyweights. Everybody loves big power and big knockouts. There's a couple things I wanted to touch on with regards to this entire situation and Tyson Fury now saying this entire thing is off. First of which is Tyson Fury's mental state, right? Tyson Fury, since he came back from his spiral and fought Deontay Wilder the first time in 2018, comes off as a guy who has used boxing to heal himself, and he's also a guy who has to set a goal and work towards that goal to keep his mind occupied in order to prevent it from spiraling again. And I think that's why this fight, according to Tyson Fury, is now off, because a guy in that sort of mental space is not going to be able to deal with ambiguous, vague dates being thrown at him. They set a fight date. It got postponed because of the current, lockdown and disease situation. I don't want to mention it because we'll get demonetized. That new date has now been eradicated. And now there's some sort of potential third date. I guess nobody's come up with it yet, but the thoughts of a potential third date. And I could see how Tyson Fury, who's already training, already brought over Sugar Hill out to his home base across the pond. I could see how a guy like that is fed up with this whole situation. It's just not good for him mentally. And I think there's a huge silver lining in this entire situation. And I'll get to that in a minute. As far as Deontay Wilder goes, he's come out in the most recent days where he said that he had a bicep injury in that fight that required surgery. I would imagine his right bicep was torn or severely damaged if he had surgery, and he still hasn't even trained on it, according to what Deontay Wilder is saying. You gotta keep in mind, Deontay Wilder's biggest chance against Tyson Fury and his biggest punch throughout his career has been the right hand. And if that right bicep is torn, it would just be absolute madness, in my opinion, for him to go right back in there without knowing how that bicep is going to react. Because if I'm being honest, I think he may have hurt this same bicep in the Chris Arreola fight way back when. So this could be like a lingering, often occurring injury that he's got. So I think, when you compound that bicep injury with the beating he took in the last fight, and when you take into consideration that we don't know where his head's at, we don't know where his physique's at, we don't know what his, what he's looking like if he's not training. When you take all that into consideration, if you actually care about the guy and you're managing his career, you're probably saying to yourself, man, this is bad. This is bad. We should not put him in there against Tyson Fury. Now, I will say this. People on the internet, at least the articles I've read, have sort of hinted at the fact that perhaps Deontay Wilder doesn't want the fight and was running out the clock. That I disagree with. I think Deontay Wilder, despite what his management may or may not have done for his career and the choices he's made in opponents, I think he's a courageous guy. I think he's got a ton of heart. I think he's shown that. And I think he would fight anybody, anywhere, anytime, any place. I do believe Deontay Wilder is that guy. But I think it would be a bad business decision. I think it would be a bad career decision for him to go right back in there with Tyson Fury, with the injury, with the rehabbing, with the lack of training, with the beating he took in the last fight, and with no interim fights. I think it would be a bad idea. I think him rehabbing himself, right? Sitting back until he's fully healed, taking a couple interim fights to see how that right hand looks. I think all of that is imperative before getting back in there with Tyson Fury. And I think it's perfect timing if you're Deontay Wilder, because you've got on December 12th, Anthony Joshua versus Kubrat Pulev looming. The winner of that, which will likely be Anthony Joshua, will then take on Tyson Fury. That fight would be for all the marbles. And if Deontay Wilder can wait through that, maybe take a couple fights in the interim, and come through and fight Tyson Fury again after he's claimed all the titles and he's the unified champion, my goodness, there is a whole lot to gain from waiting until that happens. So I disagree. The bottom line is I disagree that Deontay Wilder is running the clock. I think he wants to fight, but I think a combination of things, the injury, him perhaps not training, the rehab, also the money. I mean, with this entire situation, the world on lockdown, is there an organization that's going to be willing to pay the money necessary to make this a successful event, to get each guy paid the way they want to right now at this juncture? I don't think it's something that's going to happen. So my question to you guys, my question to Knucklehead Nation is twofold. Do you think this fight is really off for the time being? I do think so, but I want to hear what you guys think. Second question. Do you think Deontay Wilder ran out the clock because he didn't want the fight? Perhaps ran out the clock on the rematch clause? I don't believe so, but it's a possibility. I want to know what you guys think. Hit the subscribe button, the bell notification icon next to it. Join Knucklehead Nation. Get your FightersRep gear in the link below. We got shirts, hoodies, masks. Look how dope this shirt is, man. This is the dopest shirt in the fight game. We got hoodies. Now winter's coming. We got tanks. I'm going to be putting out, get this, heritage and culture-based fight shirts. Stuff that says like Mexican warrior, African warrior. Let me know what you want to see there. I've already got Mexican in mind, African. I'm thinking Latino, American, obviously. Tell me, what it is that you'd like to see as well. I'd love for you guys to buy some stuff in the link below, because when you do that, man, you not only support me in building this channel, but you support the only kickboxing promotion that matters out here in California, a pro-am promotion where we're organically growing fighters from the ground up with some of the best camps in the world out here. We are the mecca of combat sports out here in Southern California. So any help is appreciated, man. It gets reinvested right back into the promotion. And I'd appreciate anything you guys buy in the link below. Knuckleheads, we will talk soon. I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say about this situation.